Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners, your practice transition team.
Back to the guru, back to the gurus of dentistry. Mentorship's huge. You and I, just a couple of weeks back, we're talking about mentorship, how it's important and how it's actually really lacking in an industry that needs it tremendously. So what's your take on mentors? Did you have any mentors? Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Throughout my career, I've always tried to latch on to people. And that's what a mentor is. It's somebody that you can suck everything good out of, right? Like it's somebody that can help you grow, help you realize your full potential. Carl Misch was that kind of mentor to me. A mentor is somebody that is able to shift something within you and kind of motivate you to become better, right? So Carl did that for me. Josep Oliva in Barcelona did that for me, and to this day still does it. Like a mentor is really important because we, as dentists, we typically we live in isolation. We live between the four walls of our offices. We don't have much influence coming in. Even as associates, you're in one practice, you see things one way. You're lucky if you're lucky to have a mentor. When I was associating, I had a great mentor through many years of my associates right there. But many of us are not lucky to have that. A mentor is there to really prop you up, to show you what's new, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how to get better. Without having that, we live in isolation. Sometimes we take a course, we come back from that course. How do we incorporate what we just learned? There's really no hand-holding in dentistry. If you're working in a hospital and you're a surgeon, you have people around you that you're going to have meetings with, you're going to discuss cases with, you're going to have an opportunity to grow in a group. But as a dentist practicing on your own, you don't get that. And this is where mentorship is huge, especially during the early years. Like when you're young, when you're just finishing school, you want somebody that can really show you the way. It helps make less mistakes as you're getting on. Your patients are benefiting from it because you're delivering better care, knowing the mistakes of others. And you as a clinician, as an individual, as a business person, it just gives you opportunities to grow. So that's why when we were talking, I said that there's got to be a way to match somebody that needs a mentor with a mentor. Bring these individuals together in a way that they both benefit, right? Because a mentor, and I mentor many young clinicians, and it's not like a one-way street. It's a two-way street, right? Because I am learning from them as well. I am getting from them probably as much as they're getting from me, right? And what I'm getting from them is I get to see what the new things that are happening out there are, like the new materials, the new techniques. I get to be exposed to those things. I get to, when you're teaching somebody, when you're sort of passing on your knowledge, it's a legacy. It's a fulfillment on a different level than just, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to place my implant today, I'm going to leave, and it's another implant I just did. But here I'm giving the skill to somebody else that can sort of carry on those things that I do, those things that will be done to more patients. I'm sort of spreading that out, and it gives you gratitude and the ability to sort of leave a legacy forward. It's an amazing feeling. Not everybody's a great mentor, not everybody's a great mentee, but when you have that perfect union, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a important aspect of it, right? Like I think people graduate dental school thinking, I don't need a mentor. I'm done dental school. Like I know whatever I need to know, and now it's just about practicing. It's like, buddy, that's the height requirement. Graduating dental school is that's the height requirement to get on the ride. You need to actually learn dentistry now.
Yeah.
And you
Like I
can't
said,
do that.
it's the license to learn, right? Like you really get the license, and now you got to go out there and find where to kind of gain that knowledge, where to absorb, where to suck it all up, so that you can actually do things, right? Not just know about it, but actually get it done.
What's a way that you're familiar of that people find mentors now? Is it really just where you associate and you kind of just have to get lucky, or is there a proper way that people get mentors?
I mean, usually it's through associating. Like that's the typical way that somebody gets connected. But there are other ways. I mean, we have the fraternities, for example, right? You still have Zip, you have Alpha Omega. Like there's matching of mentorship there. Mentors are sometimes in school. If you can get through to some of these instructors, some of them are really, really good, and some of them you don't realize are good until after you leave school. But there's an opportunity there as well, if they're open to it and if it's a match. And then through just the dental community, like just meeting people. And I think that's sometimes overlooked, is that we need to have social interaction between professionals, so that we're able to find people that are going to nurture us going through. So as a young clinician today, if I was graduating school, I would go to CE events. I would sit at a table, not necessarily with those that I graduated with, but I would veer off and sit at a table with just random people and just get to know random people. Like this is the strength. Go to a meeting somewhere else, a random meeting about something that you might not even be interested in dentistry, and then just meet the people that are involved there. And you'll be surprised that there are many people that are going to be like you, that are just there to not really learn about sleep apnea necessarily, but they're there just to kind of meet and see to get a flavor of what else is going on in dentistry. And I've done it. I'm interested in implants, but I've gone to meetings about other things just to get a different view and just to see who you can meet that is going to help you. Like it's a selfish thing, it's a selfish endeavor, but we need it.
Yeah, you put yourself first. I think mentorship, or not mentorship, networking in particular gets such a bad rep. When I was coming from consulting, like that was the only way that you moved up, right? You can't get up there just by doing your PowerPoints and your Excels. Like you got to network, you got to know people. As someone who's by a lot of accounts, people who would definitely want to network with, how would you want to be networked with? So it doesn't come off as like grimy or slimy or any of the other, adjectives used to describe networking.
You know what? I don't see any of it as grimy or slimy. I think that starting a conversation, sort of finding the points that we both have interest in, sort of finding the common ground, like that's the key to it. And just being human, right? Like we don't really need to talk about dentistry for us to connect and realize that, hey, there's something that we could exchange, or something more that kind of brings us together. I don't think there's griminess or sliminess about it. Like if you're coming to me and saying, hey, I really want to come and watch you doing your surgery, there's no way that I'm going to say no. And that's sort of as direct as it gets, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, everybody's different, and every clinician doesn't want to be a mentor, and every student graduating or young clinician doesn't necessarily want to be a mentee. But we need to be able to coalesce these two groups together. And I've been thinking about how to do that. And we've kind of been talking about sort of what the possibilities are of creating something that can really filter out and maybe use some AI to bring people together.
Buzzword. That just the value of that company automatically just 10x. Throw AI in there. In all my years of, I think, networking, and I do quite a bit of just less networking, more just trying to learn from others. I'm obviously really early on in my career. I guess I do have a small subset of skills to offer, but I'm largely right now just trying to absorb. In fact, yesterday I was just on TikTok, or last week I was on TikTok, and I just found this guy who I thought was really sweet. Saw on his bio he was in Toronto, and I just texted or I messaged him on TikTok. I'm like, hey buddy, let's grab a coffee next week. I just want to learn about TikTok because you've obviously found a way to make it work for you, and I want to learn. So, and it was great. Yesterday we had a coffee. I think there needs to be more of that and less of just like looking from afar and more just learning, like viscerally learning. Like, let's grab a coffee. Let's, meet at your practice. Let's do something. So it's not just me consuming, what you ate for breakfast online, right? It has to go beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has to
No,
go well beyond that.
you're right. And that's the way, it should be. It's just sometimes we are used to seeing everything online. We're used to, especially from a dental side, and the way that these platforms are proliferated. You feel like you can learn everything off of looking these pictures on Instagram. I can do this case now that I've seen the YouTube video on how the surgery was done. I can see the before and afters, and I think I can do it all. But that human interaction, that one-on-one with whoever was putting that content on, is so important. And you just hit that nail right on the head in saying that you really need that human interaction to really get to know people, and just to sit down, have a coffee, just chat, spend the time in the clinic, go through it, maybe even jump in there to do the surgery. When I was in practice, I was in my associateship, my principal, he would be doing wisdom tooth extractions. I would walk into the room and the patient is sedated. They'd be like, so I'm going to do the right side, you're going to do the left side. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? He said, you're here already. Why don't you just come in and help me out? Right. And it's that kind of interaction. That's like a mentorship. That's like somebody that really, you've watched me doing this. You've seen me do it. Just jump in, come do it. Right. This is like what you need. You need that kind of relationship. And if you're able to find that, then your path forward is just like smooth.
Yeah. And I think it just requires like that first step of reaching out, which a lot of people don't even do, right? Like, people admire, so especially with social media, people admire so many people from afar, right? I think this podcast has given me a good excuse to message a lot of them and be like, hey, like, you want to come on? Like, we'll chat for an hour. But people don't really take that first step. But think of all the years I've, gone to get coffees with people, or just tried to meet new, cool, exciting people. I think I've been like said no to like a handful of times, which I think is funny actually. When I used to work in corporate, like one, like I because I would get to the office super early, and I would see like all the partners would get there early. So in the mornings, I would just, walk around and just like sit in the partner's office, be like, hey man, how's it going? Like, completely, like they're like busy on email, or so obviously I would make sure they're not like a call or something. I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And then like, so like, I ended up like doing that too. I think he was our like national head. He was just sitting there alone in his morning. I'm like, oh, that's a cool racket up there. Like, you play tennis? And we just started talking about tennis. But I remember there was this one manager that was like basically a nobody at the firm. I was like, hey, like, you want to get coffee? Like, you have a pretty interesting LinkedIn. And she was like, no, I'm busy. I'm like, are you kidding me? like the like head partner, like globally made time for me, or like nationally made time for me. Yet, like, you don't want to network with me. So it's like very small subset of people that will actually do it. But other than that, I don't really think. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think most people want that interaction as well. Most people want to just sit down with you and have a coffee. Most people want to have that one-on-one. I think it's human nature. Like, we are primed to be social, right? Like, I think that it's a given. And you know what? Most of these interactions, you got something out of it in the moment, and maybe long term, it didn't really help, right? It's not like it ultimately everything becomes that panacea, everything that is going to solve world hunger. But you get something small out of it, you enjoy the moment, and you move on, right? In most situations. And then sometimes some of these interactions build to be something really special and something unique and something that changes sort of the trajectory of where you're going.
Yeah, 100%. Just another story actually this morning. When I was an undergrad, I looked up to this guy that was, I guess I've been doing this before the podcast, but I looked up to this other guy who was this really big social media surgeon. Like he had like hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, or subscribers on YouTube, had hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. And I messaged him and I'm like, he had a similar story to me. Like he almost failed his first year of university. I almost failed my first year of university. Then he ended up going to med school. I was thinking I was going to go to dental school, but I messaged him like, hey man, like read your story. I know you do a lot of stuff online. I'll help you for free if you need anything. Like ever, it's an open invite. Like I got time. You got a lot of tasks to be done. And literally like our relationship is just like compounded and compounded and compounded. I wasn't expecting anything. I was like, let me just work for free. I just want to talk to you. And then I was on a call with him this morning and he was talking to me about his like new project that he's working on. And like we message all the time on Instagram, and he was the first guest on my first podcast. So it's like these small relationships like end up, if you don't have many expectations, like they end up just being cool people at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think it's like changing with corporate dentistry and like that whole movement? Because on one hand, I could see, the financial part is taken out, so like practitioners can devote more time to the actual mentorship part, but then at the same time, it's less personal because it's, could be perceived less personal because it's corporate. Like, have you heard anything on that front?
For one, I don't take the corporate sort of shift of the industry as something that is negative. I think for some of us, managing a practice is stressful, right? We are expected to be jacks of all trades, right? And at the same time, masters of all of them as well. And it's difficult, especially when you're thrust into things without training, without knowing what you're doing. And all of a sudden you need to be a manager, you need to take care of HR, you need to know marketing, you need to know all these business skills that we're not brought up with. So I think for some that take or don't want to partake in that stress, corporate makes a lot of sense, right? And I think corporate's going to have a big role in it, in sort of trying to free up dentists to do dentistry. And with that, there's obviously financial gain to the DSO. There's a little bit less left over for the practicing dentist. There's a whole economy that happens in that. But I don't think it alters the landscape of mentorship. I think as a DSO, I would want to have the ability to bring up and to sort of cultivate a culture of mentorship, which is not really being done because there's too much of a focus on other things. But if I was at the top of a DSO today, that's what I would be looking at in terms of improving the culture, in terms of sort of bringing up the ability to help a new grad or somebody entering the workforce to be better. But ultimately, I don't think that the DSO is going to change what mentorship is all about. I think it's just the individual, right? It's the individual kind of seeking out that relationship.
Interesting. And I know we're coming to sort of the end of our time, but can you walk me through a little bit what your venture DICE does?
So DICE is my education institute. It's the Dental Implantology Center of Excellence. And through it, we provide education in implants and basic implant training and ceramic implants to our students across North America. My platform, we're dating back to 2017, 2016. And it was fully online. Like I was one of the first to be providing this type of training that you see elsewhere as like live courses, weekends away. We started doing it as online training back in 2017. And then when the pandemic hit, we were pretty much the only ones that were doing it this way. And then everybody else scrambled around and kind of figured it out along the way. But I've always loved dental education, but at some point there's some things that it becomes difficult to travel for, right? It becomes hard to to take weekends away, travel for 3-4 days, come back, take time away from practice. When you're a young practitioner, usually you're working on the weekends. Those are typically the busy days where associates are the busiest. So doing something online was really there to benefit those that wanted to do it remotely, want to do it from home, want to do it at any time, wanted to sort of adapt the education to their schedule. So we built a platform. It's didactic, it's hands-on, everything is done virtually, essentially. And it's worked really well. And on top of that, we also provide live courses and mentorship. And we've done that for a great many years. And the focus has always been on implant dentistry, ceramic implants to a larger degree with a larger focus, digital workflows, aesthetics, pretty much everything that I've had experience in providing our patients.
That's awesome. Dan, this has been super fun. Glad we were able to put this together. Where can people connect with you if they want to, use you as a mentor or talk to you about ceramic implants?
Just go to the site. You'll see email addresses and everywhere to contact me, drdanhagi.com. That's the easiest place to go to. And I mean, if you type in ceramic implants on Google, guaranteed I'm coming up somewhere there.
First page.
Yeah.
First page. Good stuff. I'll link all your details in the show notes, but super fun having you on. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Akil. It was amazing.